welcome or welcome back. My name is Rachel. That is the R in the RK Stumblingbear, and I'm a reader and a writer. And I am back to do one of my favorite videos to do, and that is my top 10 reads of 2025. Editor Rachel here. I thought I had been very careful when I was preparing my top favorites list. And a few days after filming that video, I was talking to someone about a book I absolutely loved. Definitely was one of my favorites of the year. And all of a sudden realized I did not talk about it when I filmed the video originally. And I had a top 10. It was nice, it was sweet. And then I realized I didn't want to refilm, and I didn't really want to kick anyone off the list, because the last two positions, they're really tied, and they both deserve to be on the list for their own merits. So this is no longer a top 10, it's a top 11. This isn't only just one of my favorite videos to film, it's also one of my favorite videos to watch on BookTube, just getting to see the variety of books, and also to see which books everyone has in common. That is always a very fascinating thing for me. For myself, I do not include rereads on my list. I try to keep it just one book per author per series. So if I have a duplicate author, it's because it's two different series. It's not going to be the same one. And then my list is a mix of genre and nonfiction. I didn't read enough this past year to have multiple lists. I know I have in the past, but not this year. This year, that wasn't a priority for me. So I just wanted to enjoy my reading. But then that gets me into my top 10 reads of 2025. So coming in at 10, we have The Exiled Fleet by J.S. Dews. This is the second in the trilogy, and this is an example of a book that has a trope that I don't like, but pulled it off so that this book was a 5-star for me, and I felt like it was a really, really good sequel. I now need to finish the trilogy, but I guess I should have started off by saying, I'm not going to give the plots of these books, I'm just going to tell you what worked for me. So I also like with this dynamic that Adequin and, I'm forgetting the guy, Cal, that they're friends. There's not a romance between them, and I just love that. Coming in at number 9, we have A Drop of Corruption by Robert Jackson Bennett. This is a sequel to A Tainted Cup, where we are following Din and Anna as they go out and investigate. And I just love that. And I just love this fantasy world, like biopunk. I actually used it for my biopunk prompt for our fantasy bingo. And yeah, just, it's a very, while politics and autocracy are things that we experience in this world, the Leviathans and the magic are very different, and it's interesting to see how using those tools, Din and Anna solve their mystery. Coming in at 8, I have Death of the Author by Nanedia Korafor. This was my first new release priority read, and I really enjoy Nanedia Korafor's writing, and this one was very meta almost. We have two storylines that are reflected in one another. One where we're following Zelu, who gets fired from her job at a cousin's wedding, is trying to figure out what to do with her life, and ends up writing the sci-fi story that becomes a huge bestseller hit. And that story is called The Rested Robot, which is the other point of view if we have the rested robot. And things are happening way in the future. With Zelu's timeline, we get a lot of talk about disability and disability rep, and society not getting to have a say in how someone feels about their disability. We also get the conversations about being an author, and then when you become a famous author, how people expect things of you, which actually aren't realistic. We have parasocial issues right now and this just kind of highlighted that even more. Also, the whole, once an author sells their adaptation rights to film, that doesn't mean that the film is going to have anything to do with the book. And yeah, you get what you get kind of thing. I do not think that this is going to work for everyone, unfortunately, but I do think that this is a good discussion book. I think book clubs should pick up this book because it will have some very good discussions for them. All right, then coming in at number 7, I have The Enchanted Greenhouse by Sarah Beth Durst. This is a companion novel to The Spell Shop, and in this one we're following Turlu, who was the one who was turned into a wooden statue for bringing Kaz to life from the first book. In this one, Turlu is restored to her human self, to her mortal self, and she's on an island in the middle of winter. And on this island there's greenhouses, and there's kind of a surly greenhouse keeper. And they develop a friendship, and you do get some more intelligent plants. So if you thought that you were going to miss out because there was no Kaz, you're going to get some other personalities here. Coming at number 6, I have a nonfiction called Challenger by Adam Higginbotham. And for those of you who've been with my channel, you know that I am fascinated by space history. I wanted to be an astronaut as a kid, so like astronaut biographies, like anything related to NASA or like the space age, beginning of the space race, those sort of histories are very fascinating to me. And then this one is specifically going through what led up to the Challenger incident, and it covers not only like the designs of the plans of the shuttle and how those original plans were then shifted because of Congress and budgets and politics, and then how unrealistic the whole idea of the space shuttle being like a bus to space, bringing in new astronauts and training them, getting to see the engineers who worked on building the shuttle and the rocket boosters. And we do get to see Thiokol, who is the one who brought in attention to the O-ring problem and how much that was paid attention to and wasn't paid attention to, and how the goes through all the way up through the leading up to the saying whether to go or no go for the launch. And yeah, and then the author has included in the back that, you know, supposedly after Challenger, these different like fixes were put into place to not repeat it, but they did not feel that actually had happened, because then we got Columbia, when Columbia exploded, which now makes me want to know more about Columbia, so kind of hope that Adam will write another book, because I know Columbia, they were in space, and then when they were coming back, that's when they disintegrated. Because I've done so much reading of early space things, there were names that I recognized, plans, things that have been talked about and put into place that I recognized. So I'm like, okay, this guy has done his research. He knows what he's talking about. So very much credibility is here. And coming in at number 6, I have The Briar Book of the Dead by A.G. Slater. This was my second attempt reading a work by Slater, because I had tried picking up The Crimson Road earlier this year, and I kind of bounced off of it at first. And this was something we were reading from my buddy read group, and I absolutely ended up loving it. I liked the kind of insular village at the edge of the safe world, and just the vibes of the book, the kind of dark gothic. And we have Ellie, who has no magic, so she can't be the Briar Witch, even though technically she's the eldest line and should be. And then After her grandmother's death, she finds out that she has the power to speak to the dead, which is why it's called the Briar Book of the Dead. And by speaking to the dead, you uncover a lot of secrets in the village and even family secrets. And so one of the reasons that I love this book is that it's a complicated family dynamic. Ellie has to choose where her loyalty is, if it's strictly family, or is the village she'd grown up with also family, and how much of her loyalty is to them. But ultimately, I just love the world building and setting of this book. And when I did read The Crimson Road, it was nice to get to see Ellie again and how things had gone on since the ending of that book. So definitely am really enjoying A.G. Slater, and I hope to read more by her soon. Number 5, I have a novella that I picked up this year called Murder by Memory by Olivia Waite. And this is a cozy murder mystery on a space ship. It has cloning, it has queer characters. Yeah, it's a fun romp, and I'm very excited for the next book that will be coming out next March. This March, 2026. Coming in at number 4, I have Alien Clay by Adrian Tchaikovsky. I don't always get along with Tchaikovsky's writing, but this one just worked for me. Just the conversations of revolution and how governments try to control those who want to do change, and how, like, there was also this theme of community in here that I wasn't expecting. Like, this is actually a pretty deep book, and with as prolific as Tchaikovsky is, you might not think that his books could have as much depth, but they do. So really, really love this. Coming at number 3, I have Everything is Tuberculosis by John Green. This is another nonfiction. This is actually a nonfiction memoir mix, because we do get John Green talking a little bit about his life and his family, and then his relationship to a young man named Henry Ryder, who he meets with TB. And then interspersed with that, you get the history of TB. Historically, how do people think it came about? You see that it's been all over the world. It's not just a certain population, but colonialism has made it into problems of the third world and has made things worse rather than better. So, and then as I work in public health, I get to see like how my work that I do, or the work that we do at the health department, coincides with the science that is most recent. So very fascinating read. I know a few other people at the health department have read it as well, so we've kind of talked about it a little bit. But yeah, yes, like John Green, like if he writes a nonfiction, I'm definitely invested in finding out why he's interested, because this was a really good one. Coming in at number 2, I have The Will of the Many by James Islington. And yes, this is a young man, hero's journey sort of book. You have an academic setting. Nothing about the setup of this book is new or fresh. However, I really enjoyed this and his relationships and how he works and moves through the world. And at the end, Islington didn't do a cliffhanger. He leveled up. He left us with a question of where's this going to go. So wrapped up the main parts of the book, but then left us with a few things undone, which definitely leads into the second book. And yeah, I'm invested in this quartet, so really, really enjoyed it. Enjoyed the first book more than the second book, but yeah, that's a given. Usually first books are stronger. And then coming at number 1, my favorite book of 2025 is Whiskey and Warfare by E.M. Hamill, and it wasn't until I was preparing this list that I realized I never bought myself a physical copy. I read this as an ebook, a finalist for the self-published science fiction contest, this last iteration, where I was a judge, and this book hit me in all the feels. It has some very great discussions about grief, and grief on your own, but then grief collectively, and also has characters who are older, and so, you know, just the other week my shoulder crunched and it's really sore, and you have these characters who are dealing with, we are older, we can't do what we did in the 20s when we were in our 20s and part of a mercenary group, but we still want to fight for right and good things. So yeah, very, very fascinating book. That was a space opera, so it's my love, my favorite genre of science fiction. Yeah, I think this is something that everybody should try. And I'm very excited. I think that this is a first in a series, and I want more. I want to read more about Marin and her sisters. So, but that has been my top 10. If you have read any of these and loved them as well, love to know. If you've read any of these and you didn't like them, tell me too. I love discourse. And yeah, if you're a booktuber and you have made your own top 10 list, leave me a link down below so I can go watch them, because like I said, this is one of my favorite videos to watch. If you do not make videos, I would still love you to tell me your favorite books. You don't have to give me a top 10. You can just tell me how many of you want. But thank you, and have a great day.